Business Foundations for Mums, with me, Kate Butcher, is the podcast to listen to if you are a mum who is ready to launch your business, not sure where to start, or wanting to turn that sideline into something more serious. It will be full of practical tips, mindset advice, and inspirational and honest interviews with mums who are juggling business and motherhood, supporting mums in business to turn your dream into a reality. Hello and welcome to today's podcast episode. Today I am welcoming Jemma Andrew-Adiamah. Have I pronounced that right?
You have, well done.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So also known as Dr. Jemma. Today, Dr. Jemma is talking to us all about her business, her family life, how she fits all of that in together, and how they all feed in to the wonderful work that she does. So, Jemma, please can you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do, your family, and how that all fits together?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the podcast, first and foremost. I'm Dr. Jemma Andrew-Adiamah. I'm an empowerment coach for mums specifically, really helping them to break out of survival mode and find more clarity, joy, and confidence in their motherhood journey, life, and career. Really reconnecting them with their identity, their passion, and their purpose outside of motherhood in a way that's on their terms and also doesn't stop them being that amazing parent that they are, because I really do think that you can be an amazing mum but still aspire for more. Like, just because you're a mum, it doesn't mean that you lose your sense of ambition, that your dreams die, that your passions die. They're still there, and it's really about bringing those back to life in a way that works with your family life and this new version of yourself that you've become since becoming a mum.
Fantastic. Thank you. So for you as a mum, empowering mums, working with mums, how does that all fit in for you and in terms of your family?
For me, I mean, I'm a mum of four, so life is very busy. I have 2-year-old twins, a 5-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So
My gosh,
that's very busy.
that's very busy. Wow. Did you say
It's a lot.
2-year-old twins?
Yes, they're 2 next month.
My
Um,
gosh.
so yeah, but I really feel like we've just started to turn a corner from kind of twin parent life. Although it is still very hard, it's grueling, it's overwhelming, but it's so much, there's so much beauty in it. It's magical. And we wouldn't have it any other way. We planned for a third child and had everything set up actually for a third child, but we ended up with 2 extra children, and was a massive curveball that we wasn't expecting. And I'm so grateful that I have a business that allows me to kind of wind down and wind up as and when I need to. I mean, after the twins, I feel like I very much had to build my business back up since having them, almost like starting from scratch. Even though I'm very much in the same realms and I'm doing the same thing that I was previously, it's just taking some time to build that back up. But I'm turning a corner with that, especially now that they're at nursery for 2 days a week, which is nice to have that kind of separation from them. Not going to lie, as much as I love them and as much as they're very sweet, we do need time away from our children. And it doesn't mean that you love your children any less, or that you're not doing enough, or you're failing at motherhood. It just means that you're a human, you're a multifaceted being, and you have unmet needs, and you deserve to honor those. And I feel that my business in different seasons of motherhood has saved my sanity so many times. There's been times where I've had a really rough day with the kids, and just kind of answering emails at night, or just kind of playing on Canva, or doing something in my business has been just so restorative and joyful. And I set up my coaching business. So I started out as a full-time blogger, and then that transpired into discovering holistic well-being. It was a lifestyle and kind of well-being blog that then transpired into discovering holistic well-being, then wanting to connect with the women reading my blog on a much deeper level. So I did my coaching certification when I was pregnant with my second, and started setting up my coaching business with a toddler and a newborn. And I'm so grateful to have that something for me that's completely detached from motherhood. So I'll be working on my business early in the morning, or snatching moments during nap time, or kind of late at night. I remember kind of doing the last kind of feed and then putting my baby to bed, then coming downstairs into my office to work on my business, then going upstairs, getting to bed, and she'd wake up like, oh no, for the next feed. But you know what? I look at those times, and yeah, they were so beneficial to me. Like, I felt so empowered in those moments. I felt like I was me outside of mum. I was on value in a different way. And for me, that was just so amazing, so powerful.
Fantastic. And the way that you talk about your business as something that allows you to step away and do something that you're really passionate about is really inspiring, because I think a lot of us as mums do our businesses because we're passionate about what we do. And I have similar conversations sometimes, with friends who don't have their own business, or with my husband. And you sort of talk and say, well, actually, when I'm not with the kids, then I'm working on my business, because that's my time out from the children. And people don't always understand that actually your business that you're passionate about is your time out from your children, and your children who you're passionate about are your time out from your business. So it's sometimes life can become almost very two-dimensional, can't it, when you've got those two things? The two are both full-time roles, as it were. And so when you're doing two full-time roles, they can become really all-consuming. But if it's something that you're passionate about, then actually it kind of feels like your downtime as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I feel like it's such a privilege to be able to do something that you love, because so many people are in jobs because of the constraints of reality, that, they need to bring in a wage, and they are doing something just to get by, basically.
Mm.
And I feel that being able to do this business, it's something that I love. I get to work with some incredible, inspiring, very motivational mums who empower me, and it's my job to empower them, but they empower me. I get a lot from them as well, because I think they're incredible. And I feel, yeah, I do feel very privileged to be in this space. But as you say, I love it. It's a joy, and it doesn't feel like work. And sometimes that can be to the detriment of myself, in terms of overworking, and probably working when I'm not supposed to be. Sometimes I have like these light bulb moments in the middle of the night, and I grab my phone and I'm typing out, on notes. I'm sure many can relate to that. Some ideas that I've had. But yeah, I love it. It's a joy, and I'm so grateful for it.
It is, absolutely. And I know, I mean, we talked a couple of, well, last week, I think it was, wasn't it, when we first connected up and spoke about maybe arranging this. And then we spoke again just before we started recording. And there's a lot of ways that we think and things that we talk about that are really aligned. And I think a lot of motherhood, it can be a really lonely place, but quite often being in business, finding a business, something you're passionate about, it does give you that connection to other people around you who think in a similar way, who are like-minded, who have the same sort of passions and interests as you. And for me, that's something. And you've already talked about how the work you do, the women that you work with are really inspiring and motivate you. And I think that's a huge part of being in business for me. And it sounds like it really is for you as well.
Oh, definitely. It's such a game changer when you just find a group of people who just get it.
Mhm.
I set up my own kind of not a net. I guess on the basic level, it is a networking group, but it's
Mm.
really based on kind of honest conversations with female founders and service business owners, um, who just get it, who just want to connect and encourage and support and celebrate with you. It makes such a difference in business, because it can be very lonely. It
Mhm.
can be very isolating. And I don't know about you, but my family, like, none of them are self-employed. They're all in salaried jobs. So as much as they are supportive, and as much as they will listen and trying to kind of encourage me and kind of motivate me, they don't really get it. They don't understand the trials and tribulations of working for yourself and the ups and downs of it. So it is nice to connect with other women who do support you and who do understand where you're coming from. It makes such a difference to be seen and heard and validated by people who do really understand your experiences.
Absolutely. So what was it that made you actually take that step, Gemma, from you said you started your coaching business when you were pregnant with your second child, but what actually made you decide to start your own business in the first place?
Well, I already had my own business, so I was a full-time blogger. So I started my blog as a hobby in 2010, kind of an OG kind of blogger in that kind of, it's for blogging is very different these days. The landscape has changed. But I set it up as a hobby. I was doing my PhD and I just wanted a creative outlet. And it was really about initially documenting um, my journey to a healthier way of living and eating, because I had a disordered relationship with food and exercise in my late teens and early 20s, and I wanted to connect with other people and share my experiences, and it was a creative outlet as well, and that transpired to working with brands, some really kind of big UK brands, through sponsorship, recipe development, advertising on my blog, and developing recipes, going to events and things as well. It was all very wonderful and exciting.
Mm.
And throughout that, I discovered holistic well-being. So it's not just what's on your plate and how you move your body that's important. It's also about how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your life and your mindset, intention, how you're being intentional with your energy, your priorities, um, and things like that. So I discovered that, and that really impacted me in my life and helped me and transformed how I saw food and how I approach life in general. I remember mindset being a really big thing for me when I was doing my driving test.
Mm.
I think I'd failed it like 3 times before. And I had my fourth driving test when I was doing my PhD. And I was really nervous about it. My postdoc, who worked in the lab, he's below my supervisor, said to me, Gemma, if you can do electrophysiology, which is the technique that we used in the lab, you can pass your driving test. You can get hold of that steering wheel and you can pass your driving test. And I went into that and I held on to that and I still remember it to this day. I went into that driving test. If I can do electrophysiology in the lab, I can pass this driving test. And I did. And yeah, so learning the power of mindset has been transformational for me. And I then wanted to connect with the women that read my blog on a much deeper level, because there's only so much help and support and advice that you can give through a blog. So I did my coaching certification, and yeah, it's been like I've never looked back. It's been such an amazing experience. It's enhanced my life, and I know that it's transformed the lives of the women that I work with, and it's just been incredible.
Wow, that's amazing. So, am I right in thinking then that you said you started your blog when you were doing your PhD? So, have you never sort of had a full-time employed position?
I have. When I started my university career, I got my first job at House of Fraser,
Hmm.
on the menswear department, which I loved. It was a part-time job. It was my first job, and it was just, when you're in that kind of time of your life where everything's just amazing, like you're young, you're free, like everything's just amazing, and
Mm.
I just loved this job, um, at House of Fraser. So I had a part-time job there. And then I was a admin assistant as well for a furniture company. And then I did my PhD, and I was still at House Fraser, um, doing that part time. So I was there for like a good chunk of time. I was there for like 7 years and worked up to assistant manager,
Mm.
at the weekend, on a part time basis. And I then, after doing my PhD, left there, and the admin assistant role, at the furniture shop, which I was doing alongside when I was writing up my PhD, my thesis. And then I went into medical communication. So I was commuting from Oxford to London, every day, which was doable until I became pregnant. And then I wondered, well, how on earth is this going to work with a child? Do I put them in nursery in Oxford, or do I put them in nursery in London? And my husband works really long hours. So by that point, I was already earning money for my blog through brand partnerships. And I took a massive leap of faith and just thought, you know what, let's just give it a go. I'm in a position where I can just give it a go. So let's go with it. Let's try it. And it seemed to work. That's how I got my name on our current mortgage through, as a full-time blogger, and it was amazing. But then we had the rise of the influencer, and that's when things started to kind of go a little bit things changed a little bit then, because you didn't need a blog to kind of make money with brands or anything. You can just kind of post a picture on Instagram, which has been very interesting to see that evolve, actually.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's taken a real sort of journey for you to get to where you are now, and it has now evolved into what it is now, and the coaching that you do with mums. And you mentioned a networking group as well that you've started, which I know we talked about when we spoke last week as well, which sounds fantastic. It's a really lovely opportunity for mums to get together. And is it mums or is it women, or does it?
Women, a lot of them are mums, but I really set it up for selfish reasons, if I'm if I'm perfectly honest, because I was part of 2 memberships where they had Facebook groups. They'll get kind of guests in, they'll do workshops as well. And I just miss that kind of having that space where you can have a rant, you can connect with like-minded people, you can celebrate things, you can ask questions in a non-judgmental, safe space. Because those memberships that I was part of, they closed probably, the coaches closed them around 15-18 months ago, around the same time, actually. The just membership model just wasn't working for them anymore, which is completely fine. But I have kind of always wanted to get into networking, but you hear all of the horror stories, like the big, massive kind of corporate ones where you go in with the elevator pitch and you're salesy, and it just doesn't, as an introvert, just puts the fear in me. Honestly, that's just not me at all. I just want honest conversations, real connections, with real people. Like, I just don't want all of that salesy, smoozy, icky stuff. It's just not me. And I know there's like different types of networking for different people, and if that's you, perfect, you found what works for you. But I know that's just not for me. So I was looking for something. I put something up in the local Facebook group for our village, and there just wasn't anything. And I was kind of mulling it over, kind of tapping my fingers on the desk, wondering what to do. So I thought I'd just set up my own on a whim, only expecting like 5 people to join. The Facebook group has now got about 67 women in it, and it's so amazing to see the amazing talent that's in the village. Like, some of these businesses I've never even heard of, like I didn't even know existed. So by setting up this kind of this connection, I don't know what you want to call it, I don't even know what it's going to be. It's very early stages. I don't charge any money for it. It's literally, we just meet up and we just have a good gossip, a good conversation. And we do go around and kind of introduce ourselves, because we tend to have different people at different meetings, because they can't always come to every single one and stuff. And yeah, it's just honest conversations about business and life in general, village life. Like, it's just so nice just to connect. And like I say, on the basis of it, it is a networking group where we learn about each other's businesses. In the Facebook group, at the beginning of every month, I have like a promo thread that goes up, so people can put like their promotions up that they've got on that month, or any offer that they want to spotlight. So if, say, I've got a friend who's looking for a personal trainer, I can say, oh yeah, Amy, I know Amy, she's a brilliant personal trainer. Actually, this month she's got this offer on, and things like that. So yeah, it's all about supporting and encouraging one another.
It is, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but for me, that personal connection, it's so much more, isn't it, than some of the other ways that people connect. I mean, if you're connecting through a Facebook group, I think that's really important, but to have that face-to-face element as well, that's where the relationships build. That's where you actually make the connections. And the Facebook group, I think, is really important for supporting that and giving people a place to go back to each other and carry on that. But I've noticed, I'm part of a number of Facebook groups, and I have my own networking group as well. And I just noticed that when people have those meetings and those face-to-face connections, there's just so much more to it, isn't there? And you can see somebody online and you can know a little bit about them and you can understand a bit about their business and you see their lives maybe occasionally. And you feel like you're sort of starting to know a bit about them. And then you meet them face to face and it just kind of grows that connection. It sort of explodes that connection, really, doesn't it? And that's where the know, like, and trust factor comes from. That's where you feel like you know somebody well enough that you can recommend them. And I think it's a, yeah, really, really valuable thing that you're doing for your community there as well. Like you say, you're not sure what it's going to grow into, but it's starting off as something which is connecting people up. And I don't think you can beat that.
No, it makes such a difference. I think people buy into people, don't they? And
Mm.
once they get a kind of gist of who you are, that then helps them recommend you to their kind of friends and their clients and their family members. And it makes such a difference. Like we mentioned before, it's very lonely being in business, and having those connections is very important. And yes, you can do it on Zoom, which works,
Mm.
and it's wonderful, and that's what I used to do. But I think in person just has a very different dynamic that's just so magical, and it's just
Mm.
nice that we're able to do that.
It is. And I think some of the words that you've used there, you know, magical, and I think we've talked about the connection. And I think a lot of people are really worried about going networking because of exactly what you talked about earlier, those really formal groups that work really well for some people and for some businesses. But I think for mums in business, particularly if you've been out of the corporate world for a while or you've never really been in the corporate world, it can be really intimidating to turn up to a meeting like that, especially if they're very male dominated. And a lot of them are held at breakfast time. So they don't work for us mums who are trying to get the kids ready for school and ready for the day. So actually having a group where women can meet up and where mums can meet up, there is a very different feel and a very different dynamic in my experience. And that supportive side of it, and something that I think a lot of people, like I say, worry about going networking for the first time. But I do think we have a different way of doing things, don't we? As women, we are much more friendly and open and nurturing, and it's more about the connection than it is about just growing the business.
Oh, definitely. I know for me, I'll definitely feel intimidated and daunted going to one of those big kind of corporate networking events. And I'm very much kind of relaxed vibes, really chilled, kind of sitting there with a cup of tea and a croissant, and like we did just last week, and meeting up and just being open and honest and not pretending that everything is going okay in business, because let's face it, it's very up and down, and the current climate that we live in isn't making things any easier. And just feeling heard and validated and seen. And I think it really is important to be able to have these spaces where you can be open, honest, and yourself. And I think in those more corporate environments, those big networking groups, for me personally, I don't think I would feel myself. I think I'd feel like a bit of an imposter.
Mm. Absolutely, yeah. And imposter syndrome can be a really big thing, regardless of what stage you're at in business. I do think everyone feels imposter syndrome at some point, don't they? And I've only ever met one person who said that she didn't ever really understand what it was or feel it herself. But I think, you know, for the vast majority of people, it is there. And I think potentially even for those people who aren't maybe aware of it or really understand what they're looking for, I think it's probably there, but it just shows in other ways maybe. But it's just part of human nature to feel that, I think.
Definitely. I think it would be inhuman, perhaps on some level, to not feel like a bit of a fraud or less than. And it's not a very comfortable feeling. It's quite awkward, it's quite debilitating in some respects. but it comes from a place of wanting to do your best, I think.
Mm.
And I think for me in business, one of the big turning points was when I just started to do things like on my own. Like I kind of turned away from the cookie cutter templates of what business should be, and I really took an intuitive approach of what works for me, what works for my clients. How do I want to feel in my business? How do I want my business to look? How do I want my business to look from people on the outside looking in, who are looking to work with me? How does it make them feel? Rather than like following these 7-figure templates and overnight success stories.
Mm.
And I think, although sometimes, obviously, I'm not immune to like the mindset woes of being a business owner, and despite the work that I do, I still have those moments. But actually, really embedding myself in doing business on my terms and turning away from the shoulds and that tick list to be an overnight success story has really helped and been transformative in my business journey.
I think that's fantastic. That's such a good way of looking at it. It's a really good viewpoint and a really, I suppose, valid way of validating yourself that the way you do it is okay. You don't have to do it the same as everyone else, and you don't have to have the same aspirations and measurements of success that everybody else does.
No, I think success is such a subjective thing. It's very personal, and I think quite often in the past we've just been told that success is just one thing. It's the lots of money, it's the big houses, it's the cars, it's the 4 holidays a year, this, that, and the other. But I think for me, success definitely shifted when I became a mum.
Mm.
And what that looked like, I wanted to be able to go to the school assemblies. I wanted to pick up my kids from school and drop them off in the morning. I wanted to be able to read them a bedtime story. I wanted to be present, but still have this business where I could be me and I'm doing something that I love, and something that gave me that balance and flexibility, something that allowed me to help provide and contribute to the family household and help us live the life and lifestyle that we want to be living, and to be able to go out on kind of day trips and things like that with the kids and create memories in that way. And I'm not talking about 7 figures or anything like that. I'm just talking about enough money so we're able to live comfortably, but then have a little bit extra to do nice things.
Absolutely. I think that's when you become a mother, like you say, your priorities really change, I think. And I think that's a huge part of it. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, Gemma, what would you say the best bit of advice is that you have been given since you started in business?
I think you've probably already covered it, that you can do it your way, and it doesn't mean that your way is the wrong way. It's just right to you, and taking that intuitive approach. You don't have to follow those cookie cutter templates that we see, and the overnight success stories and the 6 and 7 figure stories that we see. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes for them to be able to create that kind of financial gain. They don't show us the blood, the sweat, the tears, the kind of late nights, the sleep deprivation, or even the resources that they have available to them in terms of childcare. Because I remember when I was setting up my coaching business, when my second baby was newborn, and getting so frustrated, just scrolling on Instagram and feeling like I wasn't good enough because I saw all these other kind of female kind of mums who were business owners kind of launching all this amazing stuff, and I'm trying to put together a website, and they're having these amazing launches and having all these kind of amazing successes, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to figure out a website. Why can't I do this? And getting really kind of caught up in that, and that comparison, and not realizing what was going on behind their scenes and behind their doors, and realizing the kind of resources and childcare that they had in place. Like, I didn't know they had a live-in nanny, or I don't know, my husband works really long shifts, so it's mainly me here by myself. So I didn't know, maybe the husband's more present, like, and doing a lot of the stuff. Maybe the grandma comes round and takes care of the kids. Maybe the grandma lives with them. Like, I was completely unaware of what was going on behind the scenes. Yet I still compared myself, thinking I'm a failure, whilst they're having these amazing launches. And that was a big game changer for me as well, actually, just realizing that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Even though I know from experience that, I've worked during nap times, I've worked early in the mornings, I've worked very late at night, it still tripped me up in that moment. But having some distance from that, I now know that actually not everything is what it seems.
It's very true. You just don't know. And you don't know how long they've been in business. They might have this hugely successful business that's looking amazing, but it could have taken them 10 years to get to that point. Whereas you might just be starting out. It's a really big one, that comparisonitis, isn't it? Absolutely. I certainly relate to the husband with the long hours as well. My husband's a chef, so he's out until late in the evening and quite often off on a breakfast shift as well. So yeah, it's the long hours are hard, and you do feel like you're having to do it all a lot of the time. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
Constant juggling.
Yes, absolutely is. Absolutely is. Do you have a favorite business tool as well that you like to use, Gemma?
See, I'm all about injecting fun and play into my business, and I've kind of streamlined a lot of my tools. But I really love Canva as a tool in business, as having a play. I do see myself as a creative person, not sitting there at an easel painting, but like just playing and having fun and making things look pretty and experimenting with different color palettes and things on Canva. I can spend quite a while on Canva having some fun,
Yep,
creating
absolutely.
facial posts and banners and
Yeah.
things. And I do like it as a tool. I used to do a lot of my stuff in Photoshop,
Mm-hmm.
which is very fiddly. Didn't really understand it. It's quite technical.
Mm.
But Canva is my level. I really I really do like it. And
I relate to
kind of
that, yeah.
I've kind of opted in and out of the pro version of it, but I'm very much kind of Canva Pro now, and will kind of put my money in it because I see it as a really valuable
Mm.
tool in my business.
Absolutely, yeah. I kind of get what you say when you say it's on on your level. I'm similar. I see myself as quite visually challenged a lot of the time. I couldn't create some beautiful creation. I couldn't create even a not particularly beautiful creation, if I'm honest, without the help of tools like that, because I don't have the basic skills. But that gives you the basics, and then you can build on that yourself, which I think is fantastic, isn't it? So it's
It's
an
very
amazing
user
tool.
friendly. I
Yeah.
remember using Photoshop and having to Google everything, whereas,
Yes.
whereas Canva is very user friendly, which is what I like.
It is. And if you follow certain accounts on, Instagram and things like that, you get all sorts of tips about really amazing things that you can do on there as well, which is just brilliant. So, and like you say, you don't really need the pro version. There are some benefits of it, and I'm like you, I'm currently using the pro version, but I haven't always. And there's still a huge amount you can do with the free version of Canva as well, isn't there? Which I think is really, really important.
It's a good all rounder, I think.
It really is. Absolutely. And do you have a favorite business book as well? It doesn't have to be business, I suppose. It could be a self-development or a favorite book that you would recommend to mums in business.
For me, I always recommend this book, and it's more personal development. It's How to Fail by Elizabeth Day. She has a
Mm,
podcast, and she really reframes failure, because failure happens all the time in business, whatever end of the scale you are, whether you're a big kind of multi-international company or just starting out. It happens, but people
mhm,
don't talk about it because it's almost like a taboo subject that's kind of riddled with shame and guilt when it happens, but it's happening all the time. But people
mm,
just don't talk about it because they talk about the successes, but they don't
mm,
talk about the failures and when things go wrong. And it happens all the time, more often than things going right. And we
mm,
learn so much. That's when we grow. That's when
mm,
we evolve as people and as business owners when things go wrong. And we should talk about it more. And what I love about Elizabeth Day is that she almost celebrates failure and what we learn from it. And she gets different guests on her podcast to talk through their three failures. But in the book, she goes through her own personal failures and reframes them, and it's just a wonderful perspective to have and very helpful in business, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's not a book I've read. It's on my Amazon wish list, and I will get around to reading it at some point. But yes, I think now that recommendation's there, I'll bump it a bit higher up the list. But yeah, I absolutely agree with that whole philosophy that failure is how you learn, it's how you grow, it's how you develop. But I don't know about you. I find, and maybe the book is something that this can help with. I find that I almost find it hard to identify my failures. And I think there's this mental block that, if I've had a failure, I lock it away in the back of my mind and try to forget that it's happened. And then someone says to me, what was your best failure recently or something? And I don't know. I really struggle to think about failures. And maybe that's because I don't view them as failures. Maybe that's because I view them as learning experiences. I don't know. I probably overthink it, if anything. But yeah, I think that could be a really valuable book. And I'm looking forward to adding that one to my up and coming reading. Definitely. Thank you for that recommendation.
You're welcome. It's such a brilliant book. And yeah, I think failure is quite a harsh term. I like to think that they're lessons that are brought to us when we're in this kind of moment of expansion and involvement, evolution, even, can't get my words out. And I just think, yes, it's just an amazing perspective, and it helps to have that self-compassion that we need when failure happens. So it doesn't become a brick wall that stops us moving forward. It's just a little stumbling block that we trip over, we process, we learn from, we move on.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a really, really good recommendation. And looking forward to it. Thank you. That's fantastic. So before we wind up today, Jemma, could you give me the details of where people can find you, all about your networking group for anyone who's local to you, where they can find you online, and all of those useful and important bits of information?
Sure. My website is www.drjemma.co.uk, and I spend far too much time, I keep saying this, far too much time on Instagram, but you can find me at _Dr.Jemma, where I share relatable and kind of honest and empowering content for mums.
And that's Jemma with a J, isn't it? Not a G.
Yes, J for Juliet. Yes. Yep. And I have a podcast called Reclaiming Mum, which is on all podcast platforms. My networking group is called E-Sleek Women in Business. If you just search it on Facebook, the group will come up, and we have monthly events where you can come and meet us and have a chat in a very relaxed and calm environment. And yeah, I think that's me. I am on LinkedIn as well if you search me, but I'm not on there very much because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep. Same as me. People often say, can I connect up with you on LinkedIn? Yep, absolutely. But there's a very good chance I might not notice it or reply to you for a month or so because I'm on there so infrequently. So yes, I do pop on every couple of days just to sort of have a quick look through the notifications, but not much more. I need to get on the case and work on LinkedIn, definitely. But yeah, fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been really lovely chatting to you, Jemma. And I've really enjoyed the conversation, and it's given me lots of things to think about, lots to go away with, as I'm sure it has for everyone listening. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here at Business Foundations for Mums. You can find all of our episodes, show notes and blog posts at businessfoundationsformums.co.uk, and you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook.